Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Soft Focus. So, I announced this towards the back end of last year, a couple of months ago, I think, and it's just a short form conversation based videos with my friends and possibly other people in the community in the future, in which we're just going to pick a recent physical media release that we've watched, talk about the film, some of the special features, take it in turns, have a bit of a chat, and that'll be it. And I think that's quite, something that people might enjoy watching as something to just to dig into a release as a sort of like a short form conversation based review of something that they might be interested in. And so, yeah, and that's what we're going to be doing today. So, introduce my guest, Chris. You may have seen him on the channel before. He's been on the Criterion roundtables and Sight and Sound poll video that we did. And yeah, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing all right. I'm so well, mate. I didn't know I had such an honor. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, number one. Yeah. So, guests first. Would you like to talk about the physical media release that you've watched recently that you want to broadcast?
A couple of things. So I wouldn't say it's a recent release, but it's recently been re-announced and will be due a reappraisal, and also doubles as one of those eternal, films you probably should have watched by now in some way. So I'm going to talk about Picnic at Hanging Rock, which I watched this morning, actually, as it turns out. And this is the Criterion release. Criterion just recently announced that they'll be upgrading this to 4K in a new part. And of course, our good friend Elliot has talked quite a lot about the new transfer, etc., that was released by Second Sight, etc. Run obviously out the Second Sight as well, which I have to say I'm very keen to pick up that disc actually now. With the whole bevy of separate special features. But first time watching Picnic at Hanging Rock, I assume you have seen some.
I have. Me and our mutual friend Nathan. We did a podcast. We did a podcast on this film.
So you did. That's right.
Yeah. So I'm very familiar with this. I've watched it a few times. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's utterly fabulous. Like captivating in ways that most period dramas don't do it for me in a lot of ways. But it kind of like it's been an hour 47, wasn't it? Like I couldn't stop watching the screen at any stage. And I think this release, even though it's like 2014, the Criterion release is going to be due a reappraisal, certainly in terms of special features, because I also think it's a good example of what Criterion used to do very well, which is kind of what I'd say Radiance do well now, which is look at the film and then think, right, in context, what should the special features be? What would this need to really round it out in terms of appreciation of the film? And while you can certainly do that in terms of explaining what Picnic at Hanging Rock is about, that's not what the film's about. It's supposed to be open-ended and kind of very loose, etc. So Picnic at Hanging Rock, for those that haven't seen it, is the story of a private school in Australia in 1900, a private all girls school, and they go for their spring trip to Hanging Rock to have lunch, have a picnic, essentially.
Set on Valentine's Day, no less.
Set on Valentine's Day, indeed. And they all go away in the horse and carriage kind of thing, and not everybody comes back. So some of the girls go missing. And it plays a lot with, one, what happened to girls, but there is a feeling of mysticism about the whole thing as well. Is it all just very... can we explain what happens to them? Is there a lot more going on that we don't know? And it sort of plays with that, both in terms of the storytelling, but also in terms of how the film is shot and made, and the music and everything goes together. And for me, it's one of the really great collaborative experiences of filmmaking. And I think a lot of the special features go into that, but how much everybody took ownership in their own little different roles, and then kind of made this whole thing just even greater than the sum of its parts, so to speak.
I'm so glad you liked it and that you brought it up to discuss, because I'm a huge fan of this. It came out in my opinion, the best year for cinema ever, 1975.
Yep.
And the aesthetic, the way it's shot, because I can't remember if it goes into it on special features about how some of the really dreamy sequences are made, but basically like fabric was put over the lens to make it look like slightly more soft focus and slightly dreamy and ethereal and stuff, and it just looks stunning. And just the music and just the setting in Australia and things like that at the turn of the century, it's just utterly captivating. It's one of my favorite films, and I wholeheartedly agree with everything you've just said about the film. It's Peter Weir, the director, has had such a weird career, like fascinating. He's made so many different types of films, like fantastic director.
Yeah, he's something special. The story about that does go into the special features. Actually, it started with the cinematographer cameraman had an idea, and he thought he just stole his wife's stockings for the day to try it the first time.
That's right.
And he put it over the camera, and then went, right, I need something better than my wife's stockings, because I need to get proper material. So he went to a wedding shop, and then walked into the wedding shop and bought a whole load of material of that to then use as it goes. But again, he was given a lot of ownership. I mean, wasn't made for a lot of money, as Peter Weir was only a couple of times director, maybe a second film I think it was at the time. And he was smart enough to give people their own place. Like, the cameraman basically says, we're gonna shoot for a day where they're at the picnic at the bottom of the rock, and we're gonna do it for a day. And he went to Peter Weir and he'd said to him, the lighting's only really good for about 45 minutes to an hour here. Can we, rather than doing a whole 8 days on one day where the lighting's going to change, it's going to be so perfect, can we come back and do an hour every day for 8 days?
Yeah.
And Peter Weir sort of said, well, that's an absolute nightmare, but yes, I think that will be worth it. And it's a pretty good example of how that collaborative process sort of worked. He used and trusted the people that are in and around him to make the film even more great,
Yeah, I agree with that. It reminds me a little bit of like how like the golden hour was used in Days of Heaven and stuff. Like, it's just they had to film at a specific time, like a window of 30 to 40 minutes, and then they were like, right, we're done for the day, we'll come back tomorrow and we'll start again, because it's all natural lighting and it's all authentic and stuff, and you can only capture that at certain times of day, and it has a different aesthetic, but it's that similar sort of feeling of just that magic sort of lighting that you can only get from nature. And it really adds to that the wildness of the film as well, because of the mystery and what is actually going on. Because I love the ambiguity in this film. It just leads you on so many paths of like what could have happened, and the film doesn't give you clues as such, but just the filmmaking in general gives you enough breadcrumbs for you to just branch off in different directions. You're like, is it supernatural? Is it someone may have come and taken these girls, or are they still out there somewhere and they're just hidden, or something like that? You never know. And it's just, I love that.
Yeah, it gives lots of possibilities, and I think that's part of it, especially when you take, because obviously the scene on the rock, etc., only lasts for a portion of the film, and it's about the after effects of that, and even for the people that were there and weren't there, and the sort of how that plays in them, and how that all works out. It's a very, very powerful film, in viewing, and just kind of typical one of those credits start to roll, and you just sit back and go, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, that was an experience.
Yeah, just to switch on to the second sight release, the 4K. Do we know if the Criterion is going to be a different source, or
I think we're almost certain that it's going to be the same. It's going to be exactly the same print. Those restorations seem to be shared,
okay,
and that it's going to come out like that. But I am interested to see actually how the extra clarity works. You watched the second sight release, didn't you, Sam? Isn't that right?
Yep.
Especially with that diffused kind of look that it has, and that sort of ethereal kind of everything kind of rotates and swims across. Exactly how the 4K works with that, regardless of the color timing or otherwise.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's not a bad disc, but I saw the film maybe 3 times before seeing the second sight 4K, and it's not egregious, but there is DNR applied to the scan, and it does take away some of the grain, which I don't like that, but it still looks good. It still is a nice looking scan, and the color timing doesn't bother me too much. Sometimes color timing does really rub me the wrong way. I think I'm going to do a video on that at some point in the future. just making comparisons on things that I love, where the timing has been changed, sometimes due to directors' wishes, which is also another rabbit hole you could dive into. But yeah, I've never read the book. I still need to read the book that the film is based on, but the film is a knockout, and yeah, I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I mean, both releases, I assume the new Criterion release will include the book as well. But both releases have that. And I remember picking this up at the time because I thought, oh God, the chances of getting the book with any subsequent release is so slim. And of course, as soon as the second sight one comes out, they do include it. But actually, one of the, again, special features on this release are just terrific in a lot of ways, because when they had planned to make this film, the big stumbling block usually is rights and all that kind of stuff. And Peter Weir was told, actually, the problem is going to be the author. She's very picky. She's a very strong woman. You're going to have to win her over. And some of the producers actually talk about those two meeting for the first time. And she's quite an older, strong character. And Peter Weir was a very young man at the time. And it was almost like the two of them had this complete meeting of minds from the first moment that they met together. And she was there. And actually, one of the special features shows her on set and embracing the characters and seeing how he made it all come to life. She kind of was very emotional about that whole experience and about seeing her characters portrayed in such a way. It just felt like a very special movie, but also very special kind of, like I say, collaboration between all of the sums of the parts that were there, you know?
Yeah, totally agree. It was a great pick.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm going to talk about something very, very, very different. So we're moving into the realm of animation for my pick, and it's a film from 1993, and it is Batman: Mask of the Phantasm 4K, directed by Adam Romansky and Bruce Timm. So this came out. This is based on, or it was set within the universe of the Batman animated show, which ran from 92 to 97, something like that, around that time. Yeah, it didn't run that long. It then moved into different iterations with some of the voice actors carrying over and things like that. But after the first season's huge success, it was very, very popular with like audiences and critics and stuff. Warner Brothers decided to sort of get a feature film, sort of greenlit. It was originally meant to be released straight to video, but the executives decided that they had something and wanted to push for a theatrical release, and budget was increased, and a lot of the creators behind the project were given a lot more free reign on what they wanted to do. And it's such an amazing film. It is maybe I've only watched it once, so very recently, a few weeks ago, actually. Well, it was just before Christmas that I watched it. It might be my favorite Batman film, and that is a very bold statement. But if you go by the Letterboxd reviews of this film, it holds like a 4.0 rating on Letterboxd, and there are so many reviews that are saying like this is the best Batman story ever. And I sort of believe a lot of these people. Like I buy into that. It's part origin story for Bruce Wayne and Batman, and it's a fantastic like self-contained story in itself. It's set, you're never quite sure, but it's set maybe in Batman's end of first year, second year as Batman, as he's transitioned from Bruce Wayne, like crime fighting, things like that. So, and it's also a romantic film, so there's a lot of romance in it, which is again very different. So it's, as I said, starts off as Bruce Wayne, not as Batman. So he's living in Gotham, and he starts a romance with a character called Andrea Beaumont, and their romance is blossoming. And she suddenly has to leave Gotham because her father has like a run-in with the mob, and she just skips town. Bruce then starts to try his hand with crime fighting, and is like transitioning into being a Batman and things like that. And some time passes later, and a masked vigilante character called the Phantasm is sort of starting to kill off members of the mob in Gotham. You know, like Batman doesn't kill people. He's like that sort of good person. But the public and the police in Gotham are blaming Batman for all these crimes. And it's sort of like Batman trying to investigate who the Phantasm is, and also Batman trying to elude the police because they're on his tail and they're trying to chase him down. The Joker also features in this story, but he's not the main protagonist, and he is so well integrated into this story. So I won't describe how or why he comes into the story or what his purpose is, but it's so well written. Of course, the Joker is voiced by Mark Hamill. Batman, obviously Kevin Conroy, who's for many people is Batman. I mean, he's my first sort of introduction to Batman because I saw this cartoon when I was a child on TV, and he also voiced Batman in the video games, the Batman Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, and so there's a lot of through run there for me and my sort of interest in this type of Batman. And yeah, it's just absolutely amazing. The score by Shirley Walker, superb, like top-notch stuff. And especially on this disc, the animation style is not so much dated. It's just very much a product of its time, which is probably dated in itself, but it looks good. Like the 4K is a very, very nice, clean representation of the animation style from 1993. But like the music absolutely sings to on this disc, like the clarity and just the fullness of it on like listening to it on like really good headphones and stuff was just added so much punch to everything. And yeah, it was one of my favorite discs that I watched last year and could be my favorite Batman film. I absolutely adored it. I don't know what your familiarity is with the Batman animated series.
So I have on DVD the first 2 volumes of the Batman animated series I bought many, many years ago, and so I adore it. I actually think it's one of the greatest depictions of it because it retains its comic sensibility, but also is a vehicle for proper Batman storylines. That don't. I mean, like every iteration of Batman ever since, even the Joel Schumacher's ones has been deeper, darker, and grittier, which is cool. Like, don't get me wrong, I've really enjoyed the Batman movies, but there is something about the comic book nature and about the kapow, the kind of where it comes from that is sort of at the heart of where the fun happens in that. And I think a lot of the animated movies have even captured that because I actually own the DC animated 4K collection as well. Nice. It's one of the very first 4Ks that I bought because I sort of have this thing that I think some people say, God, you don't need 4K for animation. I sort of think like 4K is even better for animation because it even accentuates, you're not worried about film grain. You're just seeing pure image and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. And it just pops so much, especially with colors and stuff. So I haven't seen Mask of the Phantasm actually. I've only seen those 5 and then a couple of the Superman ones, etc. The Red Superman ones that come around there. So like Mask of the Phantasm is something I'm very, very keen to check out. Yeah. And like you say, the voice cast is magnificent.
So good. Even in this film, the Phantasm, the main antagonist in this film, is voiced by Stacey Keach as well. And it's just so well put together. The writing, and it's like, how long is this film again? I forget. It's 76 minutes, and it feels like it fits in a 3-hour film runtime, but without being rushed. It's like such tight, good writing. Like I can't explain it because I was just like, this film is moving at breakneck speed, but at the same time, I don't feel like it's underwritten. It's just perfectly pitched and so well written and animated, and just the music and everything. It was just such a joy to watch. On the disc, there is just one special feature, but it's a really good one. It's called Kevin Conroy, I Am the Knight, and it's like a 25-minute documentary, sort of legacy tribute to Kevin Conroy because he died at the end of 2022. And it's sort of like all of his peers and all the people involved with like the animated series and this film, and he did so many voice acting roles for various different DC things and other stuff throughout his career. So he's like a legendary voice actor, and lots of people had lots of nice things to say to him, and there's like archive footage of him at like conventions, and as well as archive like interviews with him, and then more contemporary interviews with people from today and stuff. So it was really nice, sort of like a tribute to that guy, and just gives you a bit more context around how this started, and like the writing team and things like that. And it's just, just amazing. I've got a video coming out very soon about my favorite first time watches of the year.
Oh yeah,
and this is on it because I it didn't make my top discs of the year because I picked it up after I made that video. So it probably might have made my top 10 discs of the year if I had bought it sooner and watched it. But yeah, I think this is superb. There's another film that's related to the original series, which is like a Mr. Freeze story. I've not seen that, but I'm keen on picking that one up. And I'm keen on picking up the animated series because it's been restored and released on Blu-ray not that long ago. But you know, I have so many other things to watch.
It's on one of the streaming services as well. I can't remember which.
Do you reckon that will be restored as well, or
I think so? I mean,
the original scans.
I'll have to look it up afterwards, but I remember seeing it and also seeing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has been restored as well on the streaming services. So
yeah, I used to watch that as well.
Yeah, formative storytelling years, you know, fighting crime. How did we all end up in the jobs that we did when that's all the stuff that we watched when we were younger?
I know it just goes to show that, you know, movies and TVs don't influence you at all.
That's true.
All these people that saying, oh, all this entertainment is like ruining the youth. I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah. No law enforcement or slashers. You know that's
exactly.
Went down alternative paths.
Well, there we go. Do you have anything else to say on any of these two releases before we call it there?
Not at all. Well, the only other thing I said about Picnic and Hanging Rock is I have to say, like Peter Weir, as there's an interview with him from 2003 in this. He's one of those filmmakers. It's about 25-minute interview that you can just listen to all day. Is sort of transfixed by him. He's just so many interesting things to say, and they're not in the form of, God, I was some director, or I'm really talented, or something.
Yeah.
You know, that's not what he's very much about. Talking about the process and actually about the struggles and actually a lot about casting and about how much time and effort went into casting for that kind of stuff. So like the whole disc is fantastic there, and I'm very excited to check out Mask of the Phantasm as well. That'll be cool.
I'm sure based on your relationship with the animated series, you will get a kick out of this. So I've also recommended it to our friend Elliot, and he watched it and he was like, that was an amazing disc. Like, thanks for the recommendation. So yeah, I highly recommend it. Anyone who's interested in the Batman or animation in general, it's a really good snapshot of like what was going on with Warner Brothers and just the Batman franchise at the time. It was sort of like being reinvented for a new generation. And to be honest, this might be my favorite type of Batman. And I absolutely loved it. So thank you, everyone. This was the first episode of Soft Focus. I wondered whether I was going to be able to keep this under 30 minutes, and we've done a stellar job without being too short with everything. We've had a bit of a chat and talked about our discs and special features perfectly. So hopefully I'll be able to continue this moving forwards. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Until next time, you'll see Chris's face on this show again, undoubtedly, and we'll have a new episode out for you very soon. Thanks everyone. Take care.